disappear and reinvent yourself. Go ghost and become unrecognizable. That's so unsustainable. Focus on steady progress rather than burning out because it really doesn't need to be that intense. Use this motivation and combine it with action, and that's going to help you to actually sustain the change long term. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Always Active podcast, the show that empowers you to lead an active lifestyle. I'm your host, Katie, and in this episode, I'll be sharing 10 mindset shifts and practical tips that you can implement to work toward your 2024 goals in the last 3 months of the year, really embracing your winter arc. Now, if you haven't already heard of the winter arc, I will get into that shortly, but I've been seeing this trend absolutely everywhere. I can't seem to escape it. It's all over my social media feed. And so I figured I might as well share my take on this trend and share some tips that can hopefully help you during this winter arc if this is something that is motivating to you. Now, as part of one of my winter arc goals, I am starting to record video podcasts, which is super exciting. This is something that I've been wanting to do since the beginning of the podcast, but I figured rather than overwhelming myself and going straight to video podcasts, I would gradually ease into it. So here we are, episode 18, coming in with the video podcast. And I will be honest, I've already recorded this once and it was a fail. So we're trying it again, and hopefully this time it works out. So without further ado, let's get psyched to move. So to start off, what is the winter arc? If you haven't seen this trend already on social media, this refers to really locking in on your goals and habits for the last 3 months of 2024. And by the time I post this, this will be about 2 weeks into October. So you have just under 3 months until the end of 2024. There is a big focus on self-development, and it really is just a mindset to help motivate you to work toward your goals. So that way you can get ahead by the time 2025 rolls around. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why it's called the winter arc, considering it goes from the beginning of October to end of December, and realistically, almost all of those days take place in the fall. I don't know about you, but I'm really trying to embrace fall weather and the pumpkin spice lattes and the fall colors and leaves and all that fun stuff. So I'm not trying to be thinking about winter right now, but if anyone knows why it's called the winter arc and not the fall arc, let me know. It's honestly probably because people are like decorating for Halloween in August, and with the social media trends, it always ends up being months ahead of what's happening. So that is probably why it's called the winter arc. Now, the winter arc can be applied to pretty much any area of your life. But today I'm specifically going to be focusing mainly on fitness examples, really focusing on how you can lock in on your fitness goals for the last 3 months of the year. And throughout this episode, I'll be sharing my take on the winter arc, some things I like about it, some things I don't like about it. Overall, I do think it's a great motivator, but I don't think it needs to be so extreme, and we'll get into that. So let's just get straight into the tips. Tip number 1 is to leverage this motivation. If you find this collective winter arc energy to be motivating, then totally take advantage of that, because motivation comes and goes. So when you do have motivation, you need to tap into it. The winter arc really does remind me of that fresh start effect, which I've talked about in a previous episode, but it really is that newfound sense of motivation that comes with the beginning of a new time period, whether it be a new year, a new season, or maybe even your birthday. And like I mentioned before, one of the issues with this fresh start effect is that, yes, you have that motivation, but it is going to wear off over time. So don't let this be another New Year's resolution situation where you set goals in your winter arc and then you check back next winter arc and you achieve nothing. No, use this motivation and combine it with action, and that's going to help you to actually sustain the change long term. Tip number 2 is to remember that there are no rules. When I was doing my research for this episode, I found that there were a lot of searches on the internet for people searching winter arc rules, but there really are no rules. The only rule is that you just need to lock in on your goals. So create your own goals, create your own rules, and make it something that is actually meaningful to you. This is something that I like about the winter arc challenge, because unlike other challenges like 75 hard, for example, it is very personalized and you don't have to follow a specific prescribed set of rules. So be sure to customize it and make it work for you. Tip number 3 is to get 3 months ahead. This really is a big focus of the winter arc concept, getting ahead either of yourself or getting ahead of others. You're really getting a head start and giving yourself an edge. When you think about getting ahead of yourself, it really is preventing you from slacking off and waiting until January 1st to start on your goals. So don't delay your progress another 3 months. You can start now and then enter 2025 better than you ever have been. Really challenge yourself to see how much you can achieve by the end of the year and build momentum to make it easier for you to continue maintaining these goals once we enter 2025. Now, we can also think about getting 3 months ahead of other people. It can be a competition if this is something that motivates you, because other people are going to be slowing down, they're going to be falling off their habits, and they're going to be slacking off and saying they're going to start in 2025. But you can be better than that, and you can get a head start and be ahead of the crowd by the time 2025 rolls around. For example, if you've been procrastinating on going to the gym, maybe that was one of your 2024 goals, you can start going to the gym now. And that way you'll be ahead of the crowd that comes in on January 1st, starting their New Year's resolutions. And by that point, you would have already implemented this habit and it will become a normal part of your routine. So do with that what you will. I personally am not going to be treating it like a competition, but I know that motivates a lot of people. And so if that is motivating to you, remember you can get ahead of other people. Tip number 4 is to leverage the end of year deadline. Now, maybe you've been procrastinating on your 2024 goals, or maybe you started them and then you fell off, and that's okay. You can use this deadline as a powerful motivator to help you achieve your goals by the end of 2024. Remember, your deadline is December 31st, and so you still have about 3 months to achieve your goals. You can also apply the concept of the 12-week year. This is a concept that comes from a book with that name. I personally haven't read the book, but I am familiar with the concept, and it is actually perfectly aligned with the winter arc. And essentially what this means is a year is too long for most people to be able to stay focused. And so instead of breaking your goals down into a whole year, setting New Year's resolutions, instead you're breaking your year down into 4 quarters, so 4 3-month chunks. And by doing this, you can have more intense periods of focus on each of your goals. Something else that comes out of this concept of the 12-week year is achieving more in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months. So again, incorporating that competition element if that's something that resonates with you. Tip number 5 is to avoid being too extreme. When I've come across other winter arc videos, there's a lot of terms being thrown around like disappear and reinvent yourself, go ghost and become unrecognizable. But that's so unsustainable. Like, why are you disappearing? Why are you ghosting people? That doesn't make any sense to me. It really is that hustle grind mentality, which I thought we were over by now. It's not time to do a complete overhaul. It's literally just time to embrace this collective energy, take on this additional motivation, and use the winter arc to lock in on your habits. You shouldn't be ghosting people who uplift you. Self-development and working toward your fitness goals should be a shared experience. You don't want to do this journey on your own. Otherwise, it's too lonely, and that will burn you out. That will cause you to be less motivated. Find friends to work out with at the gym. Find friends to set goals with and hold you accountable. And that's going to actually be more sustainable. Of course, you want to set appropriate boundaries. That might mean saying no to some events, and I think that's totally okay. Sometimes you need to say no, but you shouldn't be saying no to everything, and you shouldn't be totally disappearing and going off the grid for 3 months just to focus on your winter arc. So remember to take a balanced approach. You absolutely can prioritize your habits while also enjoying the fall and the holidays that come with it, and spending time with people that you care about. Focus on steady progress rather than burning out, because it really doesn't need to be that intense. It's not that serious. Tip number 6 is to embrace the colder months. So we're transitioning into colder weather and shorter days. And the benefit of this is that it's contributing to an atmosphere that's going to promote you to work toward your habits and your goals. Because realistically, you're probably not going to want to stay out until later at night. You're going to want to get to sleep earlier because it's going to be darker earlier. And another benefit is summer can be super busy with lots of social events and things happening, but usually around October, November, things slow down a little bit. Of course, they often pick up in December, but there is a brief period of hibernation, as I like to call it. So leverage that time to your advantage. And this could also mean adjusting your routine accordingly. So maybe you might adjust the time of day that you work out, or you might adjust the types of workouts that you're doing, or where you're working out, shifting to more indoor workouts versus outdoor workouts. Thinking back to last year, I kind of entered my winter arc without even knowing it. And the winter arc wasn't a thing last year, so I didn't have a name associated with it. But I definitely did use this time to dial in on my night routine specifically and get locked in with some of my key habits. And I used it as a hibernation period. I watched another video from Lena Lifts, and she said that we should be focusing on transformation instead of hibernation. And I agree with that. but I also think we can embrace transformation through our hibernation period. Tip number 7 is to take advantage of sales. I don't hear anyone else talking about this, but as we know, Black Friday is coming up in November, Boxing Day, Boxing Week is coming up in December, and you can use this as an opportunity to make investments into your health and fitness to support your goals. It's an opportunity to invest at a discount. Maybe there is some activewear you've been wanting to purchase, some fitness tech, some equipment, maybe a new membership. This is the perfect time to buy it. For example, last year I bought my hot yoga membership during a Boxing Week sale, and it was at like a ridiculous discount, and my yoga classes ended up coming out to about $5 per class when normally they're like $20 per class. So that was a really good deal, and I'm definitely going to be looking for that again this year. Also, this isn't a fitness goal, but last November I purchased this microphone right here on a Black Friday sale because I knew that podcasting was something that I wanted to start. So I figured that I would buy this microphone, make this investment, and get it at a discounted rate. For my recommendations on my favorite health and fitness products that you might want to consider investing in, be sure to listen to episode 13. Tip number 8 is to work toward body confidence goals. Now, the summer is over, and maybe you didn't feel your most confident this summer. So if you want to start feeling more confident next summer, now is the perfect time to start building muscle and working toward your fitness goals. This will give you plenty of time to see changes before next summer, rather than waiting until a couple months before the summer, panicking, trying to do some quick fixes, and then of course that's not going to work. It's going to discourage you. Don't fall into that trap. You can get ahead and start working toward your goals now. Like I've said before, it is totally okay to want to pursue fitness goals that are more of an aesthetic fitness goal. I don't think it should be your main goal, but it can be something that will motivate you. It's totally valid to have that, as long as it's coming from a place of self-love and caring about yourself and wanting to feel more confident. Please, if you're going to pursue this type of goal, listen to episode 10, which is all about how to feel confident in your summer body. And I really emphasize in this episode that mindset and inner confidence is so key. You need to focus on your inner confidence before working on boosting your outer confidence. If you are interested in using this time starting during the winter arc to work towards some of these more aesthetic fitness goals, the main things you should be prioritizing at a very high level, one is exercise. So focus on strength training, make that a priority regardless of what your fitness goal is. And then also including cardio in your routine. Don't overdo it. If weight loss is your goal, you may want to incorporate some HIIT workouts, but the main thing to focus on is just increasing your activity throughout the day, focusing on daily movement and making your day harder, as I always say. From a nutrition perspective, be sure to take a balanced nutrition approach. You want to include a variety of nutrients in your diet, prioritizing whole foods rather than processed foods. You may want to consider tracking your calories or your macros for a short period of time. And by doing this, this can help you to learn about the calories and macros in your food, and then you can eventually transition to intuitive eating. And this will also help you to become more aware of your body's hunger cues. And depending on your goal, whether you're looking to gain, lose, or maintain your weight, you might want to consider a slight calorie surplus or deficit depending on your goal. I know that in the fall, this is usually a time where a lot of people like to focus on a muscle building phase, which may mean being in a calorie surplus or a bulk, but really just personalize this to you. And of course, if this is something that you do not feel comfortable doing or you're not in the right mindset to do, then totally disregard this advice. Something else is to prioritize protein intake. This is so important. You want to be aiming to consume about 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight. And also, if you don't want to count all of your calories and macros, you may consider just tracking your protein intake. That's probably what I'm personally going to be doing during the fall and winter. I will be tracking my food, but only tracking my protein, making sure that I'm hitting my protein goals consistently. And of course, we want to view food as a form of nourishment, as a form of fuel for our workouts. Make sure that you're eating foods that keep you satisfied, and this will help you to sustain this approach long term. Tip number 9 is to create a vision board, set goals, create a plan, and track your progress. Now, of course, this is something that I recommend year round, but I'm hoping that by hopping on this trend, maybe some new listeners will be able to benefit from this advice. So use this time to set a few goals. Personally, I'll be focusing on about 3 goals per month for the next 3 months, but pick a number that works for you. In terms of advice for setting goals, be sure to listen to episode 11 because I do do a deep dive in that episode. And then something to consider around this time of year is to revisit your 2024 goals. If you set them already, you can look back at your goals and your vision board and then pick a couple goals that you haven't accomplished yet, or maybe goals that you've fallen off of, and then prioritize these for the last 3 months of the year. Just because there's only 3 months left, it does not mean it's too late to start working toward these goals. And then if you haven't set goals yet, now is the perfect time to set them. Once you've set these goals, you're going to break them down and create an action plan and then actually follow through with this plan. And then check in on your progress. You can pick a frequency that works for you. Personally, I'll be checking in on my progress once a month for the next 3 months, but maybe you just want to set your goals now and then you can check in at the end of the year. If you'd like some inspiration for goals, these are, again, not all fitness specific, but my goals for the month of October are to upgrade my daily journal practice, prioritize my protein intake, like I said before. Now that High Rocks is over, I want to pick a new strength training program to follow and actually start following it. And then I also want to declutter my closet. And then, of course, I want to continue maintaining all of the healthy habits that I've built throughout the year and throughout previous years. Finally, tip number 10 is to complete an end of year review and to set your 2025 goals. December really is the perfect month to dedicate to this because it gives you an opportunity to reflect on everything that you've accomplished throughout the year and then start planning for next year. And actually thinking back to last year, one of my goals for December was to complete an annual review and set my goals. So setting goals and reviewing your goals can be a goal in itself. I'll be sure to make an episode on how to conduct an end of year review and set your 2025 goals when this time comes in December. Wrapping things up with our community responses, I asked you over on Instagram some questions about the winter arc. And the first question was, have you heard of the winter arc trend? 47% of you said yes, it's everywhere. And 53% of you said no, this is my first time hearing about it. So this was interesting because it was about a 50-50 split. So anyone who hasn't seen it, I guess we're on the different sides of the internet. But now that I've talked about it in today's episode, you are totally familiar with what the winter arc is. The next question I asked was, how motivated are you to work toward your fitness goals? And I asked this on a scale ranging from not motivated to very motivated. The average response was just above the middle, so just above somewhat motivated. And I would say I sit around the same spot, mainly because now that High Rocks is over, I don't really have anything to work toward. So like I said, I need to pick a new strength training program, pick some new goals to work toward, and hopefully that it will help me to be more motivated. And hopefully for all of you, the winter arc trend is going to help to motivate you even more. And then the last question I asked was, in what season of the year are you most motivated to work toward your fitness goals? 44% of you said summer, 33% of you said spring, 15% said fall, and only 7% said winter. I think that sounds about right. That's probably what I was expecting for the responses to be in that order. I'm also most motivated in the summer, but I'm also busiest during this time of year, and this is also when I tend to fall off the most. So even though the fall and winter are a little bit less motivating just with the gloomier weather, I do think now is the time to dial in, and I'm gradually becoming more motivated to work toward my goals during this time of year. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you feel motivated to harness this winter arc energy and work toward your goals during the last 3 months of the year. You can start making progress today, and you don't have to wait until January 1st. Just remember, you don't have to be so extreme. Remember to enjoy the process because that's going to help it to be actually sustainable. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Always Active podcast. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and I would be grateful if you could please leave a review. Also, be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at all.ways.active so that your responses can be featured in future episodes. See you next time.